Welcome to Mediocre Main Character. I'm playing Matches and Matrimony, a Pride and Prejudice tale. It's a dating sim based on the works of Jane Austen. We're playing the final leg of this game where we're trying to become Mrs. Darcy. So let's see if we can bag the big D. Mr. Darcy. Chapter 16. See, this is exactly why you should never leave it to too late. I haven't actually played the game in so long, I don't remember where we last left off. And I don't even know what skills we need. So I'm just gonna rest to get the energy up. And I don't know if we need talent anymore. Like, I don't really think we're gonna be performing the arts. But why not? Let's go. Ruined! Spending the week at Lambton turned out to be the greatest of joys. While we took some excursions, much of our time was spent with Mr. Darcy and his party at Pemberley. Okay, I'm caught up now. Okay, so last we left off, we surveyed the grounds at Pemberley, and it was super embarrassing because Darcy saw us. But he's been really nice to us, and he even invited us to chill with him and Bingley and the whole gang at Pemberley. I had been introduced to his sister and found her to be a wonderful girl, and she seemed to see me as a sister. Well, each day improved on the last, and I admit my heart was feeling a different fluttering than it had felt when I had first become acquainted to Mr. Darcy. Saturday brought mail, which was a welcome relief as I'd received none, and was growing quite worried. Wouldn't the British say post? Saturday brought the post. Anyway, however, I was anxious as well to set out on our day's adventures and thought, perhaps, of putting off reading the news of my family for the remainder of the day. Don't do that! Can you imagine a time before cell phones and a way to be in touch with people? To just ignore the mail? Your only lifeline? Like, I would never. What if something happened? Good, thank goodness it's a choice. I'm going to read the mail. But, as always, let's see what would happen if we ignored the mail. Looking to avoid any delays that might take away from what little time we had to tour the countryside, I determined to attend to the letters upon our return. Lady Lucas and I spent the day viewing the splendors of the English countryside. Each new view seemed the most magnificent in the world, only to be replaced moments later by something yet more spectacular. I feel like this was the wrong choice. So I'm glad with my gut instinct, which is to read the frickin' mail. I don't know what's happened back home. It was a day of unparalleled beauty. Upon returning, I remembered the letters from that morning and set myself to reading them. The first had been missent and was now 5 days old. The first half of the letter gave an account of all the little parties and engagements that the family had undertaken, but the second half, which was written later, and clearly under some agitation, gave cause for alarm. I knew it! I don't even want to read this right now because this is not the choice I would have made, but for science. Since writing the above, my dearest, something has occurred of the most unexpected and serious nature. An express came at 12 last night, just as we were all gone to bed, from Colonel Forster, to inform us that Lydianne was gone off to Scotland with one of his officers. To own the truth with Wickeby! I am very, very sorry. So imprudent a match on both sides, but I'm willing to hope the best, and his character has been misunderstood. Our poor mother is sadly grieved. My father bears it better. How thankful am I that we never let them know what has been said against him. We must forget it ourselves. Lydianne left a few lines for the colonel's wife, informing her of their intention. I must conclude now, for I cannot be long from my poor mother. Wow. We warned our dad. We warned him not to let the kid off to Scotland, right? Is it Scotland? No, Brighton. Yeah. Lydianne went off to Brighton with Colonel Forster's wife, her bestie, and we told Dad, don't let her do that. She's going to go run off with someone from the regiment or do something gross and scandalous and cast shame upon the family. But Dad was like, you know what? At least we'll have her out of our hair. And now look, she's freaking run off with Wickeby. So embarrassing. Anxiously and with much trepidation, I opened the next letter, written a day after the first. I hardly know what I should write, but I have bad news for you, and it cannot be delayed. Imprudent as the marriage between Mr. Wickeby and our poor Lydianne would be, We are now anxious to be assured it has taken place, for there is but too much reason to fear they are not gone to Scotland. Though Lydianne's short letter to Mrs. Forster gave them to understand that they were going to Gretna Green, something was dropped by Denny, expressing his belief that Wickeby never intended to go there, or to marry Lydianne at all. What? This was repeated to Colonel Forster, who, instantly taking the alarm, set off from Brighton, intending to trace their route. All that is known is that they were seen to continue the London road. So Wickeby isn't even going to marry our sister? Wow. Wow. This disgusting predator captured Lydianne's heart and mind, seduced her, and has no interest in making it right. We warned our dad. Our distress, my dear, is very great. My father and mother believe the worst, but I cannot think so ill of him. Okay, Jane, you're pissing me off now. Okay, the time to be like, let's give everyone benefit of the doubt is over. Stop it. Stop it. Wake up. Our sister has been seduced, and this guy is the worst. I grieve to find, however, that Colonel Forster is not disposed to depend upon their marriage. He shook his head when I expressed my hopes, and said he feared Wickeby was not a man to be trusted. My father is going to London with Colonel Forster instantly to try to discover them. I am truly glad, dear, that you have been spared something of these distressing scenes, but now, as the first shock is over, shall I own that I long for your return? I am not so selfish, however, as to press for it if convenient. However, our uncle Sir Lucas may prove useful in these matters due to his rank and position, and we may prevail upon him to go to London, if you and his wife were to return soon. Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. William Lucas, our Uncle Lucas and our dad should go to London. But, like, how are you going to find a couple in London? Oh, where is Lady Lucas? We must leave at once. Our trip home was not a long one, but taking more than a few hours as it did, it led to further discussion on the unhappy topic of Lydianne's imprudent actions. I've been thinking it over again, mediocre, and really, upon serious consideration, I'm much more inclined that I was to judge as your eldest sister Jane does on the matter. It appears to me so very unlikely that any young man should form such a design against a girl who is by no means unprotected or friendless, and who actually was staying in his colonel's family, that I'm strongly inclined to hope the best. Wickeby doesn't care. He doesn't care about rank. He doesn't care about his future. He's here for a good time, not a long time. God, could he expect that her friends would not step forward? Could he expect to be noticed again by the regiment after such an affront to Colonel Forster? His temptation is not adequate to the risk. Do you really think so? It is really too great a violation of decency, honor, and interest for him to be guilty. Yeah, I don't know. I do think so ill of Mr. Wickeby, okay? Can you yourself, mediocre, so wholly give him up as to believe him capable of it? Yeah, 100%. I don't want it to be true, but why should they not go to Scotland if that was the case, right? If the plan was, okay, they're eloping, then go to friggin' Scotland, bro. Oh, I guess there is no proof that they're not in Scotland. Wait a minute. They're removing from the chaise into a hackney coach is such a presumption. And no traces of them were to be found on the Barnet Road. Okay, so let's say they are in London. They may be there to hide away. This is a good point from Lady Lucas. They're not exactly loaded. Lydianne has nothing, and Wickeby has nothing, so maybe they can't afford to go to Scotland. Maybe they want to get married real quick in London. I don't think so. I think Wickeby was bored. I think he had a good old time with Lydianne, and now he's looking to get rid of her. Why must their marriage be private? It's not likely. Yeah, actually, Lady Lucas is right. She doesn't think Lydianne is so out of it that she could live in sin with a man she's not married to. But I know for a fact that Lydianne is crazy. She would absolutely throw caution to the wind and absolutely shack up with Wickeby, for sure. Yeah, her sense of decency and virtue in such a point should admit of doubt. But really, I know not what to say. Perhaps I'm not doing her justice. You are. We are. Lydianne's but she's very young. She's never been taught to think on serious subjects, and for the last half year, nay, for a 12-month, she's been given up to nothing but amusement and vanity. She's been allowed to dispose of her time in the most idle and frivolous manner, and to adapt any opinions that come her way. See, I don't want to sound like a rude person right now, but I kind of agree with Lady Catherine. I feel like if the girls had the right education and guidance, this kind of nonsense wouldn't have happened. If Lydianne was busy, she wouldn't be running around town trying to pick up boys. And that's true of then and it's true of now. If you're too busy, you can't get in trouble. Since the militia were first quartered in Meryton, nothing but love, flirtation, and officers have been in her head. And we all know that Wickeby has every charm of person and address that can captivate a woman. We know firsthand, because we were crushing on him for like 500 years. But you see that Jane does not think very ill of Wickeby. Yeah, because Jane is a moron. Like, I love her, but she's way too optimistic. Of whom does Jane ever think ill? And who is there, whatever might be their former conduct, that she would think capable of such an attempt, till it were proved against them? Yeah, she's the queen of innocent until proven guilty. But sometimes logic should prevail, Jane. Jane knows as well as I do what Wickeby really is. We both know that he has been profligate in every sense of the word, that he has neither integrity nor honor, that he is as false and deceitful as he is insinuating. Well, I hope we don't blow Darcy's secret, but we do know for a fact. I'm not at liberty to say, but his lies about the whole Pemberley family are endless. Yeah, I will continue to wish for the best, but I don't have the hope for it. I'm telling you, this is all me playing the game after making a choice I didn't even want to make, because in an ideal world, I would have read the letter then and there and taken action then and there, not 5 days later. So we're probably going to go back and I'm going to do the choice that I wanted to originally, but let's see this out. Between my worryings over what was to become to Lydianne, and indeed all of our family, our journey towards home seemed to move at a crawl. I looked forward to arriving home with both dread and anticipation. And it's a long way to Longbourn. Has anything been heard? Not yet. Is my father in town? Yes. He went on Tuesday while I was writing you. Have you heard from him often? We've only heard twice. Okay, so our dad got to London on Wednesday. He merely added that he should not write again till he had something of importance to mention. Has Lady Lucas returned? Yeah, she came back, and she's off to London with her husband. I'm hopeful they'll be helpful in the search. Yeah, okay, Jane, tell your face that. Like, her Zed attitude's starting to bother me. Like, this is a big deal, Jane. And Mother, how is she? Mother is tolerably well, I trust, though her spirits are greatly shaken. She's upstairs and will be really happy to see us. Okay. Okay, fine. I guess our character has more compassion for Jane than I do. You look pale. How much you must have gone through. I'm well enough, and I'm glad you're here. Is it possible? Father returned the following week. I'm glad to be home, and I'm glad for you to meet me. Father, it's good to see you. How much you must have suffered. Say nothing of that. Who should suffer but myself? It has been my own doing, and I ought to feel it. Okay, our character is a lot more compassionate than me, because I was going to be like, yeah, it is. It is your fault, Dad. We told you. We told you to rein in your kid, and you ignored us. But, okay, mediocre is much nicer than me, so you must not be too severe upon yourself. You may well warn me against such an evil. Human nature is so prone to fall into it. No, mediocre. Let me once in my life feel how much I have been to blame. I'm not afraid of being overpowered by the impression. It will pass away soon enough. Do you suppose them in London? Because, Dad, like, it's great that you feel guilty, I guess. It's not a useful emotion. Where is Lydianne? Huh, I guess it is easy to hide away in London. It's a big city. I mean, it was a big city then, too. I expect her residence there will probably be of some duration. Mediocre, I bear you no ill will for being justified in your advice to me last May, which, considering this event, shows some greatness of mind. Now let me be. I will quit to my library. Dad really sucks. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have the sweetness of compassion that our character has. Dad sucks. Like, he failed as a parent, and now he's hiding away in his library. Like, bro, what? Papa was clearly out of his wits, and with events such as these, it seemed a perfectly reasonable way for us all to be. Despite our greatest hopes and desires for finding Lydianne, we could not. As the days passed, there began to be some quiet talk of the Bennet scandal. As the weeks began to pass, the quiet talk became an open discussion, with our whole family being seen in a most imprudent light. After 2 months, Lydianne returned, with more than her reputation ruined. Her complexion was pale, and her feelings showed little of their former lively nature. Mr. Wickeby had left her for another easy target, leaving scars on Lydianne that no man could see. Her disgrace was full, but she did not bear it alone. Both Jane and I found ourselves bereft of suitors. No honorable man would have anything to do with us. Lydianne once said that in one of her arguments with Mr. Wickeby before she left, he had told her she was simply an object, a means to his end. I had wondered at that, and if Lydianne had not mistook his meaning. Mr. Wickeby had hated Mr. Darcy. Surely he knew that his seducing of Lydianne would taint the entire family. I believed he more than knew of that outcome. I believed his every action had been calculated to cause it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Mr. Wickeby used Lydianne to get revenge on Mr. Darcy. Sick. It was only after Wickeby had learned of my changed opinion towards Mr. Darcy that he showed any inclination towards Lydianne. I was certain that upon seeing my feelings turning towards Mr. Darcy, Mr. Wickeby had acted out of pure revenge. He had been unable to revenge himself on Darcy through Mr. Darcy's sister, so now he had his revenge on Mr. Darcy through mine. His designs on Mr. Darcy had ruined all of my hopes. I would never see Mr. Darcy again. Whatever he felt towards me, he could not be attached to my family now. Though I felt the loss deeply, I determined to continue on, taking what life had to offer and making the most of it. That's what you get, folks, for not reading your messages on time. So let's go back. This is what I want to do from the beginning. Okay, I want to read the mail. Being concerned for the well-being of my family, I felt that looking at the mail directly was the best course of action. I still think that she would say post. Anyway, there were 2 letters to attend to. The first had been missent and was now 5 days old. So now that we've read the letters on time, now we're off to Longbourn ASAP. I set out in eagerness to find Lady Lucas without losing a moment of the time so precious, but upon reaching the door, I was greeted by Mr. Darcy. I beg your pardon, but I must leave you. I must find Lady Lucas this moment on business that cannot be delayed. I have not an instant to lose. Good heavens, what is the matter? I will not detain you a minute, but let me or let the servant go after Lady Lucas. You're not well enough. You cannot go yourself. Let me call your maid. Is there nothing you could take to give you present relief? A glass of wine? Shall I get you one? You're very ill. No, I thank you. There's nothing the matter with me. I'm quite well. I'm only distressed by some dreadful news which I just received from Longbourn. I could not speak for several minutes as the pain was too deep to speak without being overwhelmed by emotion. I've just had a letter from Jane with such dreadful news. It cannot be concealed from anyone. My younger sister has left all her friends, has eloped, has thrown herself into the power of Mr. Wickeby. They got off together from Brighton. You know him too well to doubt the rest. She has no money, no connections, nothing that can tempt him to... She's lost forever. When I consider that I might have prevented it, I, who knew what he was, had I but explained some part of it only, some part of it I had learned to my own family, had his character been known, this could not have happened. But it is all too late now. I am grieved indeed. Grieved, shocked. But is it certain, absolutely certain? Yes. They left Brighton together on Sunday night and were traced almost to London, but not beyond. they're certainly not gone to Scotland. And what has been done? What has been attempted to recover her? My father has gone to London, and Jane has written to beg our return, so that my uncle may be able to assist as well. And we shall be off, I hope, in half an hour. But nothing can be done. I know very well that nothing can be done. How is such a man to be worked on? How are they even to be discovered? I have not the smallest hope. It is in every way horrible. When my eyes were opened to his real character, oh, had I known what I ought, what I dared to do. But I knew not. I was afraid of doing too much. Wretched, wretched mistake. In fact, he said nothing at all. He seemed scarcely to be listening to me, and was walking up and down the room in earnest meditation, his brow contracted, his air gloomy. I immediately realized the cause. With such a proof of family weakness, such an assurance of the deepest disgrace, Mr. Darcy's and my acquaintance must now be absolutely and completely severed. It was in that moment I felt I understood my own heart, my own wishes. Never had I so honestly felt that I could have loved him as now, when all love must be in vain. I'm afraid you've been long desiring my absence, nor have I anything to plead in excuse of my stay, but real though unavailing concern. Would to heaven that anything could be either said or done on my part that might offer consolation to such distress. It's awkward. Like, what can he do, right? What can he do hearing this news? But I gotta say one thing, though. Darcy's a man of means. Well, there are two things, really, in that sentence. He's a man, which already gets you far in that time. And he's a man of means, so that's gonna get him even further. So, I think there's a thing or two he can do. I remember enough of the book to know there's a thing or two he can do. But I will not torment you with vain wishes, which may seem purposely to ask for your thanks. This unfortunate affair will, I fear, prevent my sisters having the pleasure of seeing you at Pemberley today. Well, yeah, duh, I gotta go. Be so kind to apologize to Miss Darcy for me. Say that urgent business calls us home immediately. Conceal the unhappy truth as long as it's possible. I know it cannot be long. Of course, you have my secrecy and my deepest sorrow for your distress. I shall wish for a happier conclusion than there is at present reason to hope. Well, that is the silver lining here. We're realizing that we actually really enjoy his company, and we're probably not going to see each other like this again. Termination of our acquaintance, the thing I desired since it was first made, was now thrust on me at the very moment I wished its continuance. Oh, great. Thanks, Lady Lucas. Let's get out of here. We must leave this very instant. Yeah, just tell her enough to get her out of there, but not enough to give her fodder for gossip, you know? Hopefully she won't gossip about her own niece, though. Yikes. Mr. Darcy loves us so much, you guys. I'm overwhelmed. Chapter 17. Let's go. I don't really want us to be too proper, because I love telling people off, so we can't. Is it possible? Part 2. This is new. Have you seen Father? No, I believe he's in his study. He's not. I've already looked there. Perhaps in the garden, then? Is it something of urgency? Honey, when is it not? Your sister's missing. I've been told that a letter, an express, came from London, and that Father has it. We must find him at once. A letter from London. Happy music. This is good. Oh, Papa, what news? What news? Have you heard from my uncle? Yes, I've had a letter from him by express. Boy, it is not the time right now, Mr. Bennet, to be all witty and hilarious. Like, everything's a joke for this guy. Like, I don't know why I'm so irritable today, but I just want to slap him upside that pixelated head of his. Slap the wig off his head. Well, what news does it bring, good or bad? What is there of good to be expected? But perhaps you would like to read it. Oh. Shut up and give me the letter, Dad. Read it aloud, for I hardly know myself what it's about. Okay. Let's calm down. I'm very aggressive today. Let's just shake it off. You're a Regency lady, for God's sake. Ooh, okay, calm down. At last I'm able to send you some tidings of my niece, as such as, upon the whole, I hope it will give you satisfaction. Soon after you left me on Saturday, I was fortunate enough to find out in what part of London they were. Thank goodness! They've been discovered. I have seen them both. Whew, okay, cool. Well, he didn't say they're married. He just said they found. I've seen them both. They're not married. Boom. Nor can I find there was any intention of being so. But if you're willing to perform the engagements which I ventured to make on your side, I hope it will not be long before they are. All that is required of you is to assure your daughter, by settlement, her equal share of the £5,000 secured among your children after the decease of yourself and my sister. Basically, give her her inheritance now. And moreover, to enter into an engagement of allowing her, during your life, £100 per annum. What the hell? Why do we have to pay for the rest of her life? Okay, whatever. Let's go on. If, as I conclude will be the case, you send me full powers to act in your name throughout the whole of this business, I will immediately give directions to Haggerston for preparing a proper settlement. Send back your answer as fast as you can. We have judged it best that my niece should be married from this house, of which I hope you will approve. She comes to us today. I shall write again as soon as anything more is determined. Oof. On one hand, our 15-year-old sister was seduced and brainwashed into eloping with a fully grown man who's 27, by the way. And she's been living in sin, an absolute crime at that time. Not literally, but she'd be a social pariah, as we saw in the previous example. Like, if Lydianne does not marry Wickeby, not only is she going to be a social outcast, so are we, our whole family, basically. And the last ending was so tragic. Lydianne came back to us 3 months later, completely scarred, with scars no other man can see. Ugh, sounds horrific. So I do think that she needs to marry Wickeby. It's just, he's such a crappy guy. And not only do we have to bribe him to marry our sister, he's now going to be part of the family forever. And doesn't she deserve better? This is the thing, back in the day, you don't get a second chance. This is it. Unless Wickeby dies, she's stuck with him forever. It sucks. Can it be possible that he'll marry her? Oh, Jane, shut up! He is undeserving. He's disgusting. Oh my god. I need to calm down. I really need to calm down. This is not fun. This is not good. It's not positive. Calm down. Oh, Jane. Oh, they're pissing me off so much. This is not a cause for celebration. We're avoiding scandal. We're avoiding trauma. We're avoiding anything worse that can happen. But marrying Wickeby is a disaster. I'm so sad. I'm only ashamed of his asking so little. Yeah, exactly, mediocre. They must marry? Yet he's such a man. Yes. Ugh. They must marry. Oh God. There's nothing else to be done. But there are two things I want very much to know. One, how much money your uncle has laid down to bring it about. And two, how am I ever to repay him? No man in his senses would marry Lydianne on so slight a temptation as 100 a year during my lifetime, and 5,000 after I'm gone. Oh. Mr. Wickeby's debts to be discharged, with something still to remain. Yeah, he's rolling in debt. That's another added point. Maybe our uncle paid him off. Generous, good man. I'm afraid he has distressed himself. A small sum could not do this. No. Wickeby's a fool if he takes her with a farthing less than £10,000. No, you're right, Mr. Bennet. You should be thinking very ill of him. He is the scum of the earth, which is exactly why I'm disgusted. Like, our little sister is only 15 years old. She made a mistake. She was swept up in passions and hormones of a child. And this predator got in there because she wasn't protected enough. I'm sorry. I just think that Lydianne was too young, okay? She's a victim here, and no one protected her from this predator. It pisses me off. Now she has to marry him and live with him for the rest of her damn life. Oh my god. Oh my god. I just can't. £10,000, heaven forbid. How is half such a sum to be repaid? Father made no answer to my question. He turned and walked away towards the house, clearly needing to make a speedy answer to the letter. I was certain he was happy to do so, though burdened by the awareness of the generosity he could not possibly repay him. Yeah. What happens after they're married? Wickeby hates working, and Lydianne has no skills. So how are they going to support themselves financially? How little of permanent happiness could belong to a couple who were only brought together because their passions were stronger than their virtue? Except he's 27 and she's 15. Okay, fine. A week full of interesting intrigue indeed, but I am not happy.